Welcome to Hanging Out with Robert, that's me. This video contains things that I encounter throughout the day. If for some reason I complete a task and you would like to see the details, you can click on the link in the description area below. This video also contains tips and tricks that I learned throughout the years. I plan on leaving this video accessible for about 30 days. After that, you can view it through my Patreon account. Thank you very much for watching. Time to get with it. It is almost 9:30 and it is not getting any cooler out here. It is getting hotter. So I'm gonna move Queen Bee and then I'm gonna drive Panther until that ABS light come on. Then I'm gonna scan it so we can verify what the code is, and then we're going to tear that suspension out after I find all the parts I need. I need to find those two brake lines that I have for that, and then I'm going to look for the torch I have in case I have to heat up any of those metal brake line connections to get that stuff off and get this suspension done so I can get on the road with a vengeance. Cranking up Panther, boys. Low fuel light, which I may need because I'm going to be messing around that fuel tank, parking brake, and oil change reminder. So let's take this thing for a ride, get that light lit about the ABS and track so we can scan it. Took it around the block, didn't come on yet, and I really don't know what causes it to come on, so I'm gonna go to the store, buy some work clothes, and see if it comes on while I'm gone. Just keep driving around till it comes on so I can scan it. Before I got where I was going, I got my lights, ABS and tracks. Took about 1.5 miles maybe, a little bit more, coming to a stoplight. On the brakes, lights came on. So let's grab that VST and see what codes we got. We can also check the codes under the hood, but if you shut the car off on this ABS stuff, it'll clear the code, so you gotta check it with it running. Enter. Get your buttons down here. English 800 series. Brakes, ABS, establishing communication with the ABS. Dang, exit, no communication. Try this again. Sometimes you gotta try this 4 or 5 times. Let's see if it ever does establish communication. If not, I'll check it under the hood. Wow, failure again. I just hit enter again. Let's see what happens. I'll let you know. After several attempts, I could not get it to connect to the ABS, so I scanned it with my ECU, and it said there was an AC pressure signal fault. So I cleared that code. I'm gonna go under the hood and do the flashy button thing. Says I need to check A3. Where my jump wire at? Ah, there it is. Let me do this with 2 hands, tell you what the code is. One, 4, 1. One, 4, 2. That's it, 2 codes. Let me look those codes up, see what they are, shut this car down and get to work. Looked up the code on Matthew's Volvo site. I didn't see those particular codes listed, but I'm going to go ahead and replace these rear ABS sensors when I do this rear suspension. I'm going to try to use the sensors that's in it See if that clears up my code. Anyway, let me go ahead and find these parts I need. I need to find these 2 brake lines, and then I need to find my torch. Found one of these things real quick. Let me see if I can find the other one either in the back of the car or in this garage somewhere. Look at it here. I found both of them. Awesome. And this is the one that's been kinked up at the front. I'm going to replace that too. So let me get started. See if I could get this down, get these brake lines loose. If not, like I said, I'll find the heat and get with it on that. So in this video, I'm going to be replacing the rear suspension on this Volvo 850. I got a suspension from a C70 P80 car. They call these transverse links, and this is the passenger side right one, and it goes over links on the left side, and then you got one on the left side that links up on the right side, and this one has an anti-sway bar in it, and these bushings here look okay, which is good because mines are probably tearing out on my car. And I'm going to take the emergency brake stuff off because I'm going to be replacing that stuff. Mine is all new on my car. Some people call these trailing arms. Part of it would be trailing arms. Some people call them delta links. These are actually the delta links. And I broke mine. I was removing the shock. When I was tightening the shock down, this sheared off, so I'm going to replace mine. The one on the C70s is almost 2 inches wider than the ones on the 850s. The 850s is like 57 inches, and these are like 59 inches. So that'll give me a little bit wider stance when it comes back here to the wheels. So that's where I'm at. Let's get started. First thing you want to do is break your lug nuts loose. Put wheel stops up at the front so your car doesn't move around. Raise the car up, release the parking brakes, and then remove the wheels. As you see, there's brake lines attached to it, ABS sensors, anti-sway bar, which this is a wider one, equivalent maybe to the R vehicles. It's got green on it. You get your parking brake stuff running through there. Get your wheel hubs attached and so forth. So I'm going to be replacing it as a kit because I want to have a wider wheelbase in the back. Volvo calls it track, and then get these newer links in them. This car I think had like 120,000 miles. Mine has almost 500,000. You probably should get in alignment after you do this, but I'm probably not because I'm only going to take the anti-sway bar off of this and put my IPD anti-sway bar on it. Now when I took this out of the salvage yard, I could not get that lower spring mount retainer loose. The bolt's damaged, so I had to bring the spring with it. I have overload springs on my car, so I'm not going to be using those springs. So I got to cut that off somehow and get that off of there before I put this on. The ABS sensors, I believe on my car, are damaged. They sometimes have cracks in the wiring breaks. Something happens, they get damaged. These are different. They have a different part number. However, I think they'll still work. We'll find out. Now, I couldn't get this loose from the brake line at the vehicle off of the caliper, so I broke that off. I'm going to take this off here, and hopefully I'll get mine loose on my car. I have 2 new brake hoses here, stainless steel for the vehicle. Hopefully I'll get those off with no issues. If not, I'll have to heat them to get them off. So let me go ahead and get this spring off of here with that seat. I'll use the one I got on my car, and then get this anti-sway bar off of here, and then I'll proceed. This may take longer than a few minutes, so put up some cover. Getting this parking brake stuff out of the way, and you can see the wheel hub and the tone ring for the ABS. And the ABS sensor sits out over the tone ring, and as the wheels turn, it has magnets in there, and it sends a magnetic pulse as it crosses those tone rings, and that sends information to your computer and ABS system, letting it know how fast this wheel is turning. All the wheels should be turning the same speed. If they're not, it lets the system know that one wheel's slipping, and if it has a complicated system, it may slow that one wheel down to help it get traction, or if it's spinning because you're driving too fast. Anyway, let me keep working. I got to get this parking brake stuff out of here. I got to get this cable out a little bit. I call this the dog leg. So this is how the dog leg sits. Opens up like that. Sits in there like this, and the cable pulls it, opens it up. So let me pull this through a little bit and get this cable off of here. Hey, I was able to pull it all the way out, so I could unlock the cable from here. I'm gonna have to mess with my handbrake to be able to get that cable out of there. So I'm gonna have to lift up my center console and get this cable loose from the dog leg there, so that I can get this parking brake stuff reset on my car. Bunch of work. I was looking for a tool to somehow cut that bolt off, and man, Henrietta came through again. Go Henrietta. I noticed this little plastic thing here is busted off of this side. I don't think that matters. And the dust shield is bent up. I'm gonna straighten that out as best I can. So it looks like this is ready to mount on the car after I get this brake line stuff situated and the anti-sway bar installed on it. So let me flip this back over, slide it out of the way, and now we'll work on removing the one on this vehicle. I have the vehicle jacked up about this high off the ground on both sides. That's how high I got the tire off. My jack stands are not extended all the way. However, I did decide to put some 2x6s under the jack stands because I noticed the jack stands are digging into this asphalt driveway, and I don't want to keep destroying the driveway. So that's how high I got it up. Let me remove the wheels. Vehicle up on jack stands. I got wheel stops around the front wheels. I would recommend doing this on a level ground. Of course, the jack stands should keep the vehicle steady, but you don't want this car rolling around at all. So now I'm gonna release the parking brake, remove these wheels. Pull the tire off. That big old metal chunk in here. Don't look like it went too deep, so I got it out. I don't think I'll have any issues with that. Wow. Next, I'm going to remove the shocks and the springs. The spring retainer on the bottom is a 15 millimeter, and the thing on the inside of the shock is 18 millimeter. Next, I'm going to remove the brake caliper bolts. Take the brake caliper loose so that I can get the rotor off. And once I get the rotor off, I'm going to take the parking brake parts off so I can get the cable out, because I want to leave the cable with the car. Don't want to damage that. If you have good working parking brakes, it might be hard to get these rotors off. So I'm going to crank in the parking brake adjuster so I can get the rotors off easy. I had to crank this thing in 15 adjustments to get it to where I could get the rotor off. Now I'm gonna crank it all the way in. Start fresh when I go back in with it. And with my handbrake in there. Alright, let me go ahead and take this stuff apart so I could have it out of the way. Got the parking brake stuff loose here. However, I thought these cables are new. I guess they're new on Queen Bee. So I got it loose there so I could pull it out a little bit, take it loose so I could get it out of this knuckle. I took this screw out here. While taking that screw out, it snapped. And then I tried to pry it from over this screw, and the holder for the parking brake broke. So I got a broken parking brake now. How fun. Broke the stud off there. Man, that was 500-600 miles ago. That thing's still holding on good with this strap, hanger, and zip tie holding this strap. It might qualify for a permanent fix. I may be wasting my time replacing this thing. My parking brake parts here appear to be old. I thought I had replaced these a couple of years ago when I got this parking brake working right here in Cincinnati, but it appears that this stuff is old, falling apart. There's cracks in the shoes. I don't think I'm gonna be able to go back in with this stuff, and I honestly don't know where I put the new parts I have. I should have a pair of shoes. I should have a set of cables, but in all this moving and packing, I just don't know where that stuff is. So I'm gonna try to salvage what I can and try to find some replacements in town here. That's gonna be tough. I hit the other side of this screw with a wire brush, then I sprayed it with PB Blaster, and then I put the tool on it. Came right out. So the driver's side came out fine, broke the passenger side. Now that I have all this parking brake stuff off, I need to go inside, pull up the center console, and take the parking brake cables loose from inside so that I can thread them down here and take them loose from this dog leg. I'm gonna have to get slack out on the back side of that to unfasten the cable. Doesn't look like anybody has this part in stock. I can order it, get it in a day or two, one at a time. I'm going to hit the forums like Facebook Marketplace, see if there's any Volvo people out here that can loan me these parts. Brought Queen Bee up to John Ward's house so he can save me. Look at John. He got this. I guess he don't mind me filming his license plate since they so cool. PSI wagon. He got like the third brake light in there off the 2000 V70R, and he's got the third brake light up there, LED, from those V70 cars. Man, he got matching pairs. But this one here looks like spare parts. But that ain't why I came to show you this. I wanted you guys to see his Milwaukee tire pressure get up.
Let me just turn it on.
Power that thing on.
And it says it got 40 pounds, so I don't really have a leak, but let's say I want to put it up to 45 pounds. Hit the start button.
Wow. And then it'll kick off when it gets there?
It'll just shut itself off when it gets to 45.
And then it'll hold that, you can take it to the next wheel.
Yeah, you just unscrew it, go to the next one, adjust the pressure if you need to or not, or
alright.
When you turn it off, it loses where you set it to.
Okay.
But where that comes in really handy, your spare tire. Your car that's sitting in the street that's got a flat tire.
Okay.
It's portable, and even a 2 amp hour battery will air up all your tires if they just need topped off.
Nice. Oh Lord, I spent about an hour here. I gotta get home, get this job done. Let's go. At this point, you can cut the cables if you're going to replace them, or take the cables loose. My cables were actually good, and this one still works. However, I got a set of new cables, so I'm just going to go ahead and replace both of them. My buddy John Ward had a set of cables, but I don't have brake shoes, so I don't know what I'm going to do about that. So let me go ahead and get this car emptied out enough to get these brake cables loose at the handle pull, and then show you how to take them loose back here at the dog leg. I'm going to try to sneak these cables out from my center console without taking it all the way loose, but you gotta be careful, because if you got fancy wood in here like this, you don't want to break your wood and stuff in there. So I push both of these seats forward. Of course, I have the brake parts loose from here. I got everything that I could out of here, and now I'm going to see if I can lift this up with the emergency brake handle down and see if I can reach these. I got to open up the armrest, take those screws out of there, and see if I could lift this up high enough to take these cables loose. Pry this open with the screwdriver. Take those 2 screws out right there, whether they're T25s or 8mm, and then lift this up and see if you have enough room to get that stuff out of there. I couldn't get enough movement in the center console, so I'm taking the center console stuff out. So I took everything out from up there. I pulled these screws out. I pushed this OBD2 port out of the way, and I'm lifting this up and out of the way. Pull this back. Squeeze those wire connections to unplug them. If you don't put a little pinch on them, they don't come out easy. Then on the 850s, you got 2 T15s down there. On other vehicles, you got 2 T25s down there. This one's missing the T25s. It should have both, the T15s and the T25s. Now the front of the center console's loose. I had to pull the ashtray out because I had an improper screw in my center console. Couldn't get it. So now this should lift up enough to get these cables loose. And I'm going to put that T50 in this handle to get this handle looser, because I want this as loose as possible on that adjustment. I turned that just as I was loosening a bolt, and it did come loose. So now let me see if I could raise this up enough to get the cable loose. And it is high enough to get the cable loose. I think it is. No, I need to take this all the way out. So let me go up here and unplug the connectors, unsnap this boot, and take this all the way out. Unplug the connectors there. Looks like there's a zip tie on it as well. If you got a manual, you push in on the back just a little bit to get the clips to unclip. Then the sides unclip, then the front unhooks. So be careful you don't damage that. Take this opportunity to clean all this stuff out. And as you can see, the handle down, the cable is loose. So you pop the cable out of the handle thing there and push the cable in as far as you can on both sides. So take both sides of the cable loose. You may need a screwdriver, you may not. For some reason that one I didn't need a screwdriver. This one looks like I do. Let me grab a screwdriver and pry that out of there. If you're keeping your cables with both sides of the cables loose on the inside, you could come out here to the outside and grab this dog leg thing and slide the cable out. So now you got enough room to release the cable from this dog leg. Just remember the orientation of that, so when you put the cable back in or put a new cable in, you can get it right. So the cable is held right there. I usually take a needle nose pliers, put it on there like that, get it on that, and squeeze them. I don't know if you've seen it working its way out. Now you can put a little grip on that and get that thing to slide out a little further. Trying to hold the camera and do this at the same time is kind of tricky. See it come out a little bit more? Let me try to get it. See how that's coming out? Once I get that out, I can unhook the cable from the dog leg. Almost. Just a little bit more. I'm gonna use this hole and that up there. It's almost out. Just got a little bit more to go, and I'll have the cable loose. I can pull the cable back through that way. Do 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 do. Let me use 2 hands to get that through there. Get that last little bit. There it is. It fell off. Now I can pull the cable through this way. Now I'm gonna go ahead and pull the cable through the floor. Since I'm doing new cables, I'm gonna pull it back out this way. It's got a little plunger on it for weatherproofing. And you gotta have these back seats and stuff out because you gotta lift this carpet up to guide that through properly. So let me pull this carpet from under this trim and around these rings and around all this stuff so I can get it out properly. If you want to get this seat latch off of this electrical connector used for the heated seats, you put a little screwdriver down in there and release that tab. Then you can pull this out of there. Takes two hands. So that's the little bitty tab that you gotta push on to get it to slide off. Take your carpet trim up there. It just pulls straight out. This one over here pulls in that way. Do that on both sides because it's going to come loose. Untuck your carpet from here. On the 850s, you got a T25 there. Take this trim loose if you don't want to untuck it. That's what I would recommend you do, because if you don't, you're probably going to end up breaking it. I think you can untuck it if you just take that screw loose, pull that trim out there. You can lower your back rest down and take this out of the way. You just jerk it forward and then lift it out from the bottom there. It's got a tab there, and lift it out there. Then you can undo this under that trim piece, lift it up, unhook it from the front of that. Get that out of your way. Now you can roll your carpet up however you want and roll this insulation up so you can slide the cables under and through the floor. Now you got your carpet up, your weatherproofing up, some other backing insulation up. Then you see your cable, and it's got a securing tab there. You pop that loose with a clip trim puller. Just put it under there, pry it up, and it'll pop out. And then you take it loose from the cable. Then you can pull the cable out and push that down through the floor so you get your cable through your floor. The main reason I'm replacing my cables is because that thing broke right there. That holds the cable in position. Keeps the plug-in back here. Stop the cable from moving forward and aft. So that's like the main reason. I could have jerry-rigged that, didn't want to. That's the main reason. Now, if your cables are good, leave them. If your cables are old, getting a little rusty, stuff like that, you might want to go ahead and do like I did and replace them. So now that I got this one loose, I'm going to pull this out and unhook the cable from the dog leg like I did on the other side. You may want to lift this up as far as you can and clean under it. I'm a little surprised at what I'm finding under here. I also noticed on this side the floor is bent a little bit. So somebody must have jacked this up at one time, or it hit something. Probably jacked up the floor. So maybe a good time to clean a little more under here. Under this side, I'm finding all kind of stuff. Tools, rare coins. Heck, I might find something I'll be able to retire on. Also found some kind of little plug that broke loose from there. So I want to get under there and put another plug in there so it don't start taking on moisture, water, and rusting. Oh man, I bet you they won't know where this goes. I'm going to put this on their little thing. What's this part? 850 trivia. Now that the parking brake cables are out of the knuckle assembly and off of this rear suspension, I'm going to take the shocks off and release the springs so I could actually bolt this caliper back to this knuckle. So I'm going to put one bolt in that so that that brake caliper is held in position to the knuckle the way it was, as if there's a rotor on here. I got the strap off of there. Now I'm going to get the hanger off of there. I'm going to push the shock off of there, take this bolt loose, and take the spring out of here. I don't want the spring in the way because I'm going to jack this up to get that to fall off up front once I'm ready. I hit the threads with a wire brush, and then I broke it loose with my breaker bar, and I'm going to turn it off with my Harry. Once you get the bolt out of it, and you get the cup lift up out of the way, you just pry the spring out. And then you take the springs off. Once you get that last little bit pried off, the spring will just come off the top. You could put a little mark on those springs so you could get them back in the right way. They do sit in there a certain way so that they are positioned properly. Now, I don't have too much gas in my gas tank, and I'm planning on taking my ABS wires loose. I'm not leaving the sensors here. I'm taking them loose and dropping them down with the car. Now, if you want, you could take the sensors loose, unclip the wire harness, and tie them up to the car somehow, so you can drop the trailing arm links down and leave the ABS sensors. You could do the same thing for the brake lines. You could undo the brake lines from the rear end and then tie them up to the car and pull this out without it. I'm going to drop it with the brake lines. So take the sensor loose if you want. I'm going inside to take the floor loose so I can unplug the sensor, so that when this rear end comes down, the sensor comes down with it. Still got some hand cleaner cream left from when I helped Rebecca last year. She gave me some of this. Now I'm going to empty out the back of the car, take this floor panel out, and undo the ABS wiring. Got to finish getting this stuff out of here. And I only got 15 minutes left, so I'm not doing too much more tonight before I go in, clean up, relax a few minutes, and go to sleep. Pick this back up in the morning. Just pulled my panel out and found some screws missing off the bottom of that. So I guess that's a thing with those panels. Screws falling off of them. Find them down in here somewhere. Let me go ahead and get the rest of this floor out. Having 10 minutes left, I really need to be wrapping this up for tonight instead of moving forward. However, here's the ABS wire sensor, so I need to take this panel up and feed this wire down through there. And see how easy that goes down in there, because I got to feed the other one up. So I could cut the wire, cut the sensor, and use the wiring to bring the next plug up. Do either or else I could fish a wire down with it. Decisions. Wow, that looks close. This tank, got some dirt in there. What the heck's going on there? This tank is up pretty tight to the floor, so that may be an issue, getting these ABS wires fed down through here. Also, you may remember I ran this car pretty low on gas, so if I need to drop this tank a little bit, shouldn't be a problem. Drop it a little bit, about 6 inches or so, should be good to go. Also, I have a float for this car, so I could change the float while I'm in here and hopefully get the fuel gauge a little more accurate. Fuel gauge is not bad. A couple times it has gotten hung up, but it doesn't go all the way up to full, and it hits empty before it's actually empty. So I think it's running down about 10% lower than it should. Anyway, that is tight. I'm probably going to drop the tank since I only have a couple gallons of gas in here. Another thing I wanted to show you guys was this panel here is rusted out. This little splash guard panel there, that piece of metal. I have one of those to replace this rusty one I got when I was in Albuquerque a few weeks ago. So this tank is held up primarily by these two straps. This one and that one. It's got a 12 millimeter here, a 12 millimeter up there. That looks horrible, but I could pull those to support this tank so it doesn't come down too far and deal with these wires, the float, and this little deal here that I could probably just slide in there. But it's not good for it to be rusty, rubbing on it up against the plastic tank. Fuel tanks on these cars are plastic. I also have another one of these clamps. That one's getting rusty. I'm going to replace that. while I'm down here. Other than working on John's car, I usually don't work on cars too late, but I feel okay, so I'm gonna keep going. Let me go ahead and find this panel here, the float, and work on lowering this tank a little bit. You know what? On second thoughts, I'm going to go ahead and pack this car up because I got a lot of stuff out here. I don't want to be packing this up in the dark, but I'm going to pack this up, pick it up in the morning, and try to find my brake shoes in the storage and find the float and the other thing I have for the car. So let me go ahead and wrap this up and pick it up in the morning. If you feel that this information was useful, please like it and share it with your social media friends. You can subscribe to my channel so that you will get notifications of future videos that I post. You can follow me on Twitter, and if you need to contact me directly, please visit my website. And if you have any questions, leave them below, and someone or myself will reply to them. Again, thank you very much for watching.